Hey everybody, John here. This is the Blue Water Outlook weekly weather briefing, last day of January 2026. And you know what? I think a lot of us are thinking about spring because it's really turned to be a harsh winter in the central and eastern U.S. later in January. And unfortunately, the theme of my briefing, and if you're in sort of the central and eastern U.S., is going to be a continuation of some really cold air. So let's get started. Okay, so right now what we have is we do have cold weather advisories in all these areas shaded, and in the blue we actually have some snow forecast, and this nor'easter here moving up the coast is producing some really heavy snow. Now the path of it's going to pull off from the east coast, so that will limit the snow further in the northeast. Sort of from southern Virginia and the Carolinas, eastern Carolinas will be impacted the most. Now we take a look at the snow last week, and this is the snow. We really added a lot of snow in the northeast U.S., and some of that extended down into the Great Lakes, the Ohio River Valley, and even the Midwest. And this is our current snow cover right here, and about 41% of the nation is covered in some snow. So got the snow on the ground, you got the cold weather, and it's feeling like winter anywhere over the central and eastern U.S. And you can see this morning we are getting record or near record lows, all those dots there, and the wind chills below zero. Temperatures last week averaged anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees below normal in those blue and purple areas. That's a lot. That's a pretty significant departure for a weekly average. Coldest temperatures of the week fell below zero anywhere dark green or blue, so anywhere north of that line did hit at least at one day, if not more, below zero. Now why is it so cold? Well, we're in a Greenland high, and that's this orange Greenland high weather regime, and that looks like it's going to persist at least until the middle of the month. And what that does is we have high pressure over Greenland, and it pushes or displaces the polar vortex to the south. And you can see that's what we have. So if you're to the west of that line, you're under high pressure and you're probably getting above normal temperatures. If you're to the east of that line, you're more dominated by this area of low pressure, and you're most likely getting colder than normal weather. And by Thursday, not a lot of change. Now, there are signs that this high is going to gradually push off a little bit more to the east, and this is going to retreat a bit and sort of contract. So the central U.S. is probably going to moderate a bit, but one thing I want to point out is how long the parts of the Great Lakes, Northeast, and Mid-Atlantic are going to stay on the cold side. And you can see that here. Let's start off by looking at the blue. Look at how widespread it is as we look at the next, this weekend and early in the week. It gradually sinks as we go each 5-day period here. But notice how persistent it is from the Great Lakes, Northeast, and Mid-Atlantic. So the warmer than normal temperatures in the west push into the central U.S. as we go through with time. Okay, so let's look at now, that's temperature. Let's look at precipitation, rain and snow. And like we saw the last couple weeks, overall it's fairly quiet. We do have some areas of rain, we do have some areas of snow, and we do have this area of enhanced snow in that region, but otherwise pretty quiet. And here's our snow forecast right here with that nor'easter. And like I said, the path of it sort of comes like this, and then it curves out this way, and that is why we don't expect very heavy snow up in the northeast with this nor'easter. But this is going to add some snow in the upper Midwest this week. Now let's look out at week 2, whereas the 6 to 10 day, that dividing line is here. Not a whole lot of change in week 2, but it does shift a little bit to the east, and we still have the western U.S. unusually mild, and the far northeast and eastern U.S. unusually cool, and overall a pretty quiet type weather pattern. I don't see any classic Texas panhandle type systems that you get this time of year. We're really in the time of year when you would expect those type of systems. And it does look pretty quiet. I don't see those right now. And that would make sense with a Greenland high type of blocking pattern that we wouldn't get those. That's this week's briefing. For those of you in that cold weather, stay warm.